Your petrol price went up. Your online delivery got delayed. Your flight ticket costs more than it did 6 months ago. And the reason for all of this is a stretch of water that is 34 kilometers wide. That is it. 34 kilometers. The width of a medium-sized city. And right now, it is closed. This is the Strait of Hormuz, and this is what actually happened. Imagine you're driving to work. You stop at the petrol pump. You look at the price. You look at your wallet. You look back at the price. You consider briefly whether walking to work for the rest of your life is actually a viable option. It is not, but you pay anyway. The Strait of Hormuz sits between Iran and Oman. It connects the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. Before February 2026, 20% of the world's entire oil supply passed through this strait every single day. 20 million barrels every day. Through a gap that in some places is barely 34 kilometers across. To put that in perspective, you could drive across it in 20 minutes. Yet this 20-minute drive was holding together the entire global energy economy, which in hindsight seems like a design flaw. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched coordinated airstrikes on Iran. This included the assassination of Iran's supreme leader. Iran's response was absolutely unhinged. In the best possible way, if you are a geopolitical historian. In the worst possible way, if you own a shipping company. Within 48 hours, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps declared the Strait of Hormuz closed. Not traffic is a bit slow today. Closed. As in, we are putting sea mines in the water. We are boarding your ships. We are firing at anyone who tries to pass. The 4 largest shipping companies in the world, Maersk, MSC, Hapag-Lloyd, and CMA CGM, all suspended operations within the same 24-hour period. More than 150 oil tankers anchored just outside the strait and refused to move, because on one side Iran was threatening them, and on the other side there was nowhere to go. At this exact moment, the Red Sea was also being attacked by the Houthis. So for the first time in modern history, both of the Middle East's major maritime corridors were simultaneously blocked. The International Energy Agency called it the largest disruption to global energy supply since the 1970s oil crisis. Oil prices shot up from $65 to $126 per barrel. That is a 94% increase in a matter of weeks. This is why your petrol is expensive. This is why your delivery is delayed. This is why your company sent that email. The United States launched something called Operation Project Freedom. The plan was to deploy U.S. Navy destroyers as escorts for commercial vessels trying to pass through the strait. During the first convoy, Iran responded with missiles, drone swarms, and small boat attacks simultaneously. The U.S. Navy neutralized the threat. But shipping bosses unanimously decided that being guided by a Navy destroyer through an active war zone was not the insurance-approved definition of safe passage. The convoy paused. Talks began. Pakistan tried to mediate. China and Russia vetoed a UN resolution on freedom of navigation. NATO allies, including the UK, Germany, and Japan, declined the U.S. request to join the escort operation. At which point the U.S. was essentially alone, running convoys through a war zone, while everyone else expressed deep concern. As of today, 1,550 commercial vessels are stranded in and around the strait. 2,500 mariners, real human beings, are trapped on those ships. That number was confirmed by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on May 6, 2026, 2,500 people. Stuck because of a 34-kilometer strip of water. Iran, in the meantime, began charging ships over $1 million per vessel to pass through the strait. That is a toll. Iran invented a toll road in the middle of a war for ships. I genuinely did not have Iran becomes a maritime toll booth operator on my 2026 bingo card. But here we are. Now, what does this mean for you? If you are in India, India imports roughly 80% of its oil. A significant portion of that oil came through the Strait of Hormuz. Petrol prices, LPG prices, airline tickets, the cost of goods in your local market, all of these are connected to what is happening in that 34-kilometer gap. If you are in the United States, you are watching oil prices rise at the pump. You are watching supply chains that were already fragile after COVID get hit again. And you are watching your government try to run Navy convoys through an active conflict zone while simultaneously negotiating a deal with the country causing the conflict, which is diplomatically speaking a lot to ask. The situation as of today remains what experts are calling a dual blockade. Iran controls who passes through the strait. The U.S. Navy controls who reaches Iranian ports, both sides blocking each other. Both sides calling the other one unreasonable. 1,550 ships in the middle, going nowhere. The IEA says this is the worst maritime trade disruption since World War II. Global insurance companies have pulled war risk coverage from any vessel attempting transit. Which means even if a ship captain was willing to try, their insurance company has very specifically said no. Here's the part nobody talks about. The Strait of Hormuz has been a crisis waiting to happen for decades. Analysts have written about it for years. War games have simulated exactly this scenario. Multiple administrations have said we need to reduce our dependence on Gulf oil. And then nothing changed, because it was cheaper not to, until it wasn't. That is the thing about choke points. They work perfectly right up until they don't. And when they stop working, the consequences are not local. They are not regional. They are global. Your petrol price, your delayed package, your company's force majeure email, all connected to a 34-kilometer gap between Iran and Oman that right now nobody can agree on how to open. The world's most important waterway, and it is closed. If this explains something you have been wondering about, subscribe. Because every week I break down the big stories that affect your daily life in a way that actually makes sense. See you next week.